So getting started like we normally do, where we go through and show that we're not using any modifiers in the coil run, we're only purchasing revives. I just want to say that I'm a hunter main. I play mostly on hunter. I play on all subclasses of hunter, and I have multiple builds for all subclasses of hunter. And this build is the most fun that I've had on hunter in a pretty long time. We get to swarm the battlefield with moths. We get those moth grenades up all the time. We're able to go and throw out these Strand clones and throw out these whirling Beyblades to just damage out the battlefield. We are an ad clearing machine. We get damage resistance from all sources. And we get a good amount of healing and ability uptime to really just keep swarming everything around us, and it is so fun. You're constantly in the action, you're constantly moving, and there's never a moment where gameplay feels slow, dull, or boring in any fashion. It's super awesome, and I can't wait to show you guys all about it. Let's get into the gameplay. So getting started here, let's first talk about the exotic for the build, and that is the Mothkeeper's Wraps. And what they do is they replace your current grenade with a moth grenade that has a minute and 13-second cooldown. What those moth grenades do is they will spawn in 2 moths on impact. They will either be arc or void moths. What the arc moths do is they chase enemies, they'll explode on impact and inflict blind to your enemies, which will stun unstopped champions, by the way, or you'll get void moths that'll chase you and your allies much faster than the arc moths, and they'll apply a 22.5 HP overshield per moth. So if you get both void moths to impact with you, you'll get a 45 HP overshield, which is really nice. We're pairing that along with the melee that we have built into the Strand subclass, which is our threaded spike. That's going to allow us to sever targets on impact, and it's also going to be able to give its own energy back when it comes to us and we catch it, which is really nice because we can keep that up pretty often, especially with the fragments that we're running with this build. We're also going to be utilizing our dodge. We're going to be running Gambler's Dodge so that we can get that threaded spike back on the chance that we don't have it. We're going to be pairing all of this with our 2 aspects. We're running Whirling Maelstrom, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the name of the aspect is right now, but it's the one that makes those Strand clones and stuff for you. We're going to be utilizing those so that way, when we're severing enemies, when we're damaging them with our Strand subclass in any way, shape, or form, we are going to be generating tangles. Those tangles are going to be dealing extra damage thanks to Whirling Maelstrom. We're going to turn them into little Strand Beyblades, and that is going to be dealing great damage. It's going to feed back into our grenade energy, using our different fragments. It's going to be giving us our melee energy back thanks to different fragments, and it's going to be, just a primary damage dealer. Those shadow clones, those Strand clones, are going to be helping us out by basically making us and our allies invisible to enemies. Enemies are going to target those Strand clones instead of targeting us, and that way we're going to be able to traverse the battlefield more safely, and we're going to be able to kind of reposition, get ourselves out of a bind pretty effectively, and in comparison with our fragments and mods that we're running with the build, we're going to also be able to have some healing and damage resistance to keep us alive during those moments where we need to panic dodge to get ourselves out of combat. Speaking of the fragments that we have in the build, starting out with Thread of Generation, we're going to be getting grenade energy back when we deal damage to enemies. That is super handy because we want our grenades up as much as possible so that we can keep throwing out those moths to do different things, right? And we're dealing damage from all kinds of different sources all the time, so our grenades are up pretty consistently. We're also going to be running Thread of Warding so that we're going to get Woven Mail when we pick up orbs. So anytime that we get kills that are generating orbs via the mods on our armor, we're gonna get that 45% damage reduction from all sources from Woven Mail, so it's gonna make us a lot harder to kill. We're also gonna be running Thread of Fury, so that way we're gonna get melee energy back from dealing damage with tangles. Along with Whirling Maelstrom, those tangles stay up longer and deal more damage to enemies as time goes on. We have our melee up pretty frequently. And with Thread of Transmutation, when we have Woven Mail, which we're getting from Thread of Warding, we're going to be able to make a tangle for Whirling Maelstrom anytime we get a weapon final blow, which is super handy. So we're trying to pick up orbs to get Threat of warding, that's going to allow us to have that woven mail. Then we're going to try to kill some strand debuff targets with our different abilities and weapons in order to make that tangle. Whirling Maelstrom is then going to hit the field when we throw that tangle or detonate it ourselves, and that is going to feed both into our melee energy and our grenade energy from Threat of Fury and Threat of Generation. So we're getting that ability uptime like we were talking about earlier pretty damn consistently. It's super handy. Now, let's dig into the mods that we're using for this build that really pulls everything together into a tight little basket. On our helmet, we're going to be running a harmonic siphon, so that way our strand weapons that we're running, they can be whatever strand weapons you want. I used Quicksilver Storm and the Mercado 45 just because they felt really fun and feel really good this season with all the strand stuff that's happening in the artifact mods and whatnot. So I really enjoyed those. Like I said, you can run whatever you want, but when we get multi-kills with those, our harmonic siphon is going to give us orbs of power to feed into our abilities and give us that woven mail when we pick it up. We're then running a heavy ammo finder and a scout just so we can have more ammo for our heavy weapon so that we can just keep laying waste on the battlefield with it. On our arms, we're going to be running a copy of Focusing Strike to be able to get our class ability back when we deal damage with that threaded spike, and we're going to be running Impact Induction so we also get grenade energy from dealing damage with that threaded spike. We're also going to run a copy of Firepower so that way we can generate an orb of power when we get a kill with those arc moths. On our chest piece, we're going to be utilizing our just generic kind of damage reduction mods. You could also run a copy of Charged Up if you wanted to, since later on you're going to see what we would be using our armor charges for. I didn't really see a need in it, so I didn't put it on the build. On the leg armor, we're going to be utilizing a copy of Installation in order to get our class ability back from picking up orbs of power, and we're running Absolution so that all of our abilities get a cooldown when we pick up an orb of power, as well as a recuperation mod so we get that form of healing on the build as well. So not only are we getting damage reduction when we pick up that orb thanks to Threat of Warding, but we're also just going to heal when we pick up that orb, so not only are we taking less damage, we're actually just getting more health. And then on our class item, we're going to be running a copy of Bomber, so every time we dodge, we get some grenade energy back because we want to keep throwing those moths. And then we're running Powerful Attraction so that any orbs that are in the general vicinity, we're just going to scoop right up, feed our abilities, get our woven mail going, and just keep our cycles going, keep everything rotating. We're also running Utility Kickstart so that when we dodge, we're going to get a chunk of our class ability back so that we can always have those panic clones up. So the gameplay loop is pretty easy to grasp and keep up with because you're not really having to try to keep the gameplay loop up. You're just kind of playing the game however you want to, and the build will follow itself through. It's a ton of fun. We're just getting kills in order to create tangles. We're going to throw those tangles to do more damage and feed back our melee and our grenade energy. We're going to be using those to also make orbs for us so that we can pick those up and feed abilities back, get our woven mail, make more tangles, get more clones, get more dodges, get more melees, get more grenades. The ability spam, really good in this build. We're also really good at being able to give ourselves overshields, blind our opponents with our mods. We're giving our allies invisibility essentially from our strand clones, and even our super here does pretty decent damage. It's definitely more of an ad clear type super, but we keep up pretty well. If you'll watch here, I don't know how to read a timer on the left side of my screen, but that's fine. That was the only time we died inside this coil because of a timer, not even because of the enemies around us or the boss dealing damage. We're severing enemies, we're unraveling enemies with our whirling maelstrom, we're dealing damage with threadlings with our clones. Just everything all around that the Strand subclass has to offer, we are applying it, and it is fantastic. It is such a fun time. If you guys enjoy this kind of content and you want to see more, go ahead and like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys want to see next. Put in a comment down below if there's another build that you want me to go over and make for you guys, or see if there's a different twist we can put on it, and we'll make it happen. If you guys want to go and check out the channel, we've got other videos up on the channel as well, from a couple different games to other build videos, other just kind of funny moments type videos. There's a little bit of content for everybody, so if you guys want to keep up with that stuff, I'd greatly appreciate it. Anyway, I'm going to let the rest of this gameplay rock out, and you guys can see how we were able to keep up with this Syntho Strand Titan that was running the coil with us. We finished in right at 35 minutes flat on an entire coil run, which is insane, and we actually ended up killing more enemies than the Strand Titan did, so we were able to kind of compete with that build up on the battlefield and stay consistent and run it really well. You guys enjoy, and I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.